But speaking of these injuries, man, you had another guy that got hurt this past weekend in Cam uh, Heyward. He's now out for 8 weeks, injured his groin in that 49ers game where Brock
Hold on,
Purdy
actually,
looked like he never even got injured in the
wait,
first place.
not mention the other player who got the same injury as Rodgers this past week. Our guy in Baltimore, J.K. Dobbins. He also ruptured.
That's that you're right. You're right. You're right. J.K. Dobbins, man, and I mean it's unfortunate for him because he's out again. I mean they just have problems out there.
He just came back and he's out again, unfortunately.
They did mention that Baltimore's training staff. That's a whole thing with Lamar not wanting to sign with Baltimore
Is that
because
just like a 95 thing? We got the same coaching trainers in Washington and Baltimore.
Probably so.
Is that what's going on here? Like
yeah, they might just be sharing
they
duties.
might just be
That's
sharing.
probably why. It's
They might
probably
just,
why everyone is injured in Baltimore and Washington.
yeah, they might just be sharing. Like that's what's going on. I think we just figured it out.
We did the signs.
I think we just figured it
Speedy
out.
and successful recovery to J.K. Dobbins as well. Again, not the biggest fan of Baltimore, at least the Ravens, but you never want to see somebody go down with a torn
Injured
Achilles.
twice in the last 3 years.
Yeah, he just came back from an ACL. There.
That was the year before last.
Yeah, I think it's
Unfortunately,
a whole year or so since he sustained that one, and then he came back with the Achilles this past week. So tough break.
it might be time for him to wrap it
He's a
up as
young
well.
guy too. I don't think he's like 26 years old. I mean, he's pretty young. He's only been in the league for 4 years, I think.
That's just like the unfortunate circumstance. Some
Very,
instances.
very much so.
Yeah, I mean he's only 24 years old, so I mean to be that young with those injuries, I mean at his position, I don't even know if he's gonna come back.
He was asking for a deal this offseason. I don't know if you guys remember that. He was asking for a contract
Oh,
extension.
he won't be getting that.
Probably
I'm
not.
sorry.
Probably not. Unless he's super, heals pretty quickly.
But speaking of guys that heal pretty quickly, as I was saying, Brock Purdy, man, are we sure he was ever injured?
No, he wasn't. He just didn't want to play Philadelphia. The lights were too bright.
Yeah,
I think the man was hurt.
Yeah, he was definitely.
However, I mean he's very, very young. His ability to bounce back is greater than, someone who's in their, mid-30s, mid to late 30s or whatever that would sustain an injury. I think Ben Roethlisberger suffered something like that towards the end of his career. And he just, obviously I think he was already, gonna retire, but an injury like that to come back is just very difficult. I think it was a Tommy John injury that he sustained. But it's good to see him come
surgery.
Back. Yeah, yep. And it's good to see him come back because a lot of people thought it was just a scheme. They thought it was just like defenses weren't familiar with his, play or whatever. Well, they got tape on him, and doesn't matter. I mean, he's still throwing touchdowns like, nothing happened. So good for him. I heard Joey Bosa saying like something like a lot of people doubted him. They didn't think that he was that guy, but he's everything that, we thought that he was. So, I mean, that's cool to see that. I mean, they moved on from Trey Lance, sent him to Dallas. So they clearly believed in his, not just his recovery, but his talents.
I mean, and it showed. I mean, he was putting on that field, man. It looked like I said, it looked like he never was hurt at all.
Yeah.
Moving and grooving.
I know we're supposed to be objective here, but as a Cowboys enthusiast, we have to deal with the big brother out there. So it's better that we could deal with the big brother with a full arm and legs and head show. Brock Purdy, we're coming. Pause.
That was unnecessary. That was so unnecessary.
But hey, but wow. All right, but yeah, that's insane.